In this video, we're going to take a look at a red ink by Akkerman, their number 21. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the red ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading in the stub. I'm looking because on the left side of the 2Ks I see a tiny bit of feather, but I might have smeared that. We see a little bit of shading in the extra fine and even tiny bits, as in quick is much darker than the end of lazy. Like lazy goes darker to lighter. So there actually is a little bit of shading going on here. They're all about the same tone. The extra fine took 9 seconds to dry, while the medium took 15. Scrubby for both show no color variation, although there is a little bit in the writing, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a D-like Alpha with a medium nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, but quite a bit more ghosting than I was really expecting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade, and it's all the same tone. The extra fine took 14 seconds to dry, while the medium took 23. Scrubby for both give us no color variation. We get none in the writing, and the smear test says you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this really bright pink at the bottom. It moves up. We get another bright red, but then we get some yellow across the top. Much more complex than I was expecting. The one on the right is allowed to dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water. And really, we're not seeing any difference, although the pink at the bottom does look a slight bit darker, but I'm just thinking it's moving a little bit slower. I'm not expecting any resistance here. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We get no bleeding and no ghosting. No feather, spread, halo sheen, no color variation in the writing, although the extra fine is a slight bit lighter than the stub and the stub and medium are the same tone. The extra fine took 10 seconds to dry, while the medium took 17. Scrubby for both give no color variation. We're not getting it in the writing, and the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself fairly well. It does have a little bit of spread. It does get just a little bit blurry, but all of the information is there and easy to read. Water's lifting most of it, and you see right on the bottom edge where you start to see some of the white of the paper coming through. Now, it did only take water to get this out of my pen. Pen flush does nothing more than water did, although in both we're seeing that pink that I didn't think was going to be as resistant as it is showing itself to be. Again, only water. The 1/3 bleach solution completely obliterates it. The next writing sample is done on Moji paper. No bleeding. Very minor ghosting. Wouldn't stop me from using the back. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading in the stub, no shading in the medium, but a few darker spots that show themselves in the extra fine just a little bit. The extra fine's lighter than the stub, while the medium's the same tone. Extra fine took 3 seconds to dry, and the medium took 6. Scrubby for both. Well, scrubby for the extra fine, far left to far right, shows a tiny bit of color variation. We only got a few dark spots up there. The medium showed none, where we got none. And the smear test you could probably recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Akkerman's number 21 has a viscosity of 1.79, so it is a little bit wet. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests and the bell curve's made, then down in the description is a link to that video. The next writing sample is done on moleskin paper. Not known for being fountain pen friendly, what I'm circling is the spots that give a lot of show through, a lot of ghosting. This up here with the medium, believe it or not, none of this touched the page underneath. So all of this is actually very good for this paper. You have no chance of using the back of the page with a medium, but with an extra fine, you could, especially for this pocket-sized notebook. Now we get a lot of feathering in the medium. It's gross. That would be a real problem for me, even for on-the-spot note-taking. We get tiny feathers in the extra fine. Not really a problem. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the medium. No spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine took 2 seconds to dry. Its scrubby showed no color variation. Got none. Smear test, you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Akkerman's number 21 has an average dry time of 15 seconds, so it's normal. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Now, despite all of this heavy into the paper, none of this touched the page underneath, but all of it means you cannot use the back of the page. We get a lot of feathering on the medium. We get a bunch of tiny feathers all over all of the extra fine. Medium spreads to about a broad. Extra fine spreads to almost a medium. The extra fine's a little bit lighter than the medium. The extra fine took 1 second to dry. Its scrubby shows no color variation. It has none. Its smear test says you can't smear it, so don't worry about it. Instead of finding inks that look like Akkerman's number 21, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice blue-black by Graf von Faber-Castell, their Midnight Blue. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Akkerman's number 21? This comes right up to the line of being too loud for me. It stops in a good place. I can see this being a great red for users of a lot of red, especially given the size of those bottles. Like teachers, plus the cool bottle. Kids will ask a lot of questions about that on your desk. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? This is a very boring, straightforward, and predictable red. And I haven't said it in a long time, but boring is beautiful to know exactly what you're going to get. It seems to always perform the same no matter what. So we really have a dealer's choice. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at KWZ's Gray Lux.